Hi, I'm Jenna,
And I'm Erin.
and welcome to Between Two Filing Cabinets, where we bring you tips, trends, troubles, and stories from HR. And Erin, this time I thought we would talk about training in the
Yay,
workplace.
my favorite topic.
I knew it would be. And the reason why I thought that, this came up when I was working with a company the other day, and we were talking about sort of how they're developing their leaders and some of the struggles that they were having. And some things that are very common to organizations. People have moved up in the organization because they're very technically skilled. They do a great job at the actual work, the day-to-day work, but that doesn't always translate to being a great leader in the organization. So that was something that they'd gotten some feedback on as an area where they really needed to make some change and invest in that area. And one of the questions that came up to me is, what would I recommend as a good session for developing their leaders? And my response was, well, session is the wrong word. It should be sessions. And it got me kind of thinking of, how employers approach to training. A lot of times, you see that, like, let's do a training, let's go in, let's get out, and then we're good. We trained them. And it's really not effective. So I thought it would be important to kind of talk about, like, what are how do you structure training programs, to be effective and to be lasting rather than just sort of an in and out type of deal? What are the things that you see, that are the most successful in the workplace?
Sure. And, it's funny. I think that you really hit the nail on the head. I think most of the time people think, well, why can't we just have a training on communication or leadership? Once we tell people what they should know, they know it. And I think not realizing really that human beings aren't rational or logical necessarily. And just because we might know something doesn't mean we necessarily internalize it or have put those new ideas and tools to practice. And that's really what it takes in between trainings, is really trying to implement those new behaviors and those new tools. And that's going to take some time. And so the results that I've seen that are the best are typically with organizations who do think of it as a series of trainings rather than just a one-off or something like that. Having it part of their, every month, to have something on the agenda, on the calendar. Maybe it's a half day, maybe it's even just a couple of hours, but having something at least once a month on different topics has a way of kind of creating some momentum that people can kind of build on throughout. So that's one thing, kind of having it be kind of a recurring occurrence. Having it be maybe at least monthly, sometimes even every 2 weeks if you want to have shorter sessions. Starting out with a foundational kind of class, right? And so one thing that we're working on for one of our members right now is to start with basics of supervision, bringing it on site. It's typically, we offer it as a 2-day course. We're customizing it for a member so that it's going to be half days, a series of half-day classes. After that, what we typically recommend, like if you go onto our catalog, you'll see our 9-part leadership series. That's another great one to bring on site, because then each one is an individual topic people can focus on, but they're all still going to include some of those foundation principles of leadership. So structuring that is one way. Another way I highly recommend is having, and I include this in my trainings, but having action plans and homework in between, and kind of starting out each one of those training sessions thinking about, okay, what got in my way last time for my action plan? What did I accomplish? What changes have I seen? Can really build in accountability for taking on that learning. And then really what I think separates kind of the wheat from the chaff are organizations that then take that learning. Everybody's participating, and so it's not just new leaders, but everyone's participating, so that they can think about ways to weave that learning into ongoing meetings in between training sessions. So you can kind of refer back to, well, remember how we were talking about at our all staff training last week, so that you can really keep it relevant and keep it kind of on people's minds. Otherwise, they tend to kind of they like it, but they tend to forget in between sessions.
Yeah, I like that, having, because I think it's easy for some companies, if we go in, we facilitate, and, we're there once a month or something, but it's what happens in between when we're not there. So it's really important, I think, to have a good partner for us, so that we can kind of check in or give them ideas, like you were talking about, of, okay, like in between, revisit this in a staff meeting or however that is, or have accountability partners in the organization where you schedule check-in. So I think that's a really good tip to have, because I think that's the other piece is even if we do recurring trainings, it's got to be woven into sort of the fabric of the organization.
Exactly. And at all levels. Right. Yep. And so that is it kind of bums me out when I see that, right? When we're doing a training and it's supposed to be leadership and your senior leadership's not there, or the senior leadership comes for the introduction and then all of a sudden they disappear for a couple hours. I think that's a lost opportunity, right? Because that's one, you're getting a sense of where everybody's at, what their questions are, where the opportunities are to support them. And you're creating a common framework and a common language and a framework of expectations, what is expected of a leader, because people have very different ideas of what that looks like. Yeah. I really see them missing out on that opportunity. And then they're missing out on opportunities every day afterward because they're not, they can't, since they weren't there, they can't find those ways to apply those lessons and tools on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, I always love it when I walk into a training and their CEO, their owner is there. Even if we do multiple sessions, sometimes they'll sit through every session because it really communicates, obviously, to all their employees, but it helps me as a trainer know, like, okay, this is something that is important to the organization that this person is truly invested in. Yeah. And really, you increase your chances of affecting the change when it's coming from someone, in that position. So as a trainer, I always like that part.
Me too.
So, yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, those are some great tips on how to have, really an impactful training series to really look at developing your leaders. As we know, it's, employee development and growth is one of the top retention pieces, as well as ability to attract employees is investing in them. So some great tips for us today.
I got one more too in case. So not for all of our members, unfortunately, but training it can add up. It requires an investment, and it is an investment because you get that value back. For some organizations that might not have the budget for training, I did want to just do a quick call out for anybody who's in Polk, Yamhill, Marion, and Lynn counties. There is a grant that's kind of being offered for training full-time employees, workforce development. You might want to take advantage of that. We're almost at the deadline though. So if you're interested, definitely go to Willamette Workforce Partnerships. It's at willwp.org, and you can see a link. I believe the deadline for those grant applications is October 1st. But yeah, you can get grants between $5,000 and $20,000. So that might really be able to help kind of bring some learning into your organization.
Ooh, great tip. I like it. Thanks, Erin.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we will see you next time. And let's see, what should we file this one under? Training?
Training. Sounds good.
Okay. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Thanks.